Welcome to a new video of advanced formulas in Excel. The first that we have to know is Excel handles three types of cell reference: relative reference, absolute reference, and mixed reference. Relative cell reference: when we copy a formula with relative reference, the formula will update depending on where we are going to copy it. And absolute cell reference: the absolute reference is identified by placing a dollar sign before the column and row that form the title of the cell. When we copy a formula with absolute reference, the formula will remain unchanged. The last are mixed cell reference. It is a mixture of absolute column and relative row, or relative row and absolute column. When we copy a formula with mixed reference, the formula will update the value of the relative column or row, while the absolute reference remains unchanged. I'm going to give you an example of relative reference. In the following example, we want to create a formula that we will multiply each item's price by the quantity. Instead of creating a new formula for each row, we can create a single formula in cell D4 and then copy it to the other row. We will use relative reference, so the formula calculates the total for each items correctly. First, select the cell that will contain the formula. In our sample, we will select cell D4. After, enter the formula to calculate the desired values. In our sample, we go to multiply. Always it starts with a sign of equal. After the items, multiplying the items to C4. We press enter and the formula will be calculated and it will be displayed in the cell. To show you the example that we have to do with a relative cell reference, click and drag the file handlet over the cell you want to fill. In our sample, we will select cell D5 and D13. You can double click the file cell to check their formula for accuracy. The relative cell reference should be different for each cell depending on the row. And the last example is using absolute reference. There may be a time when you don't want a cell reference to change when copied to other cell. Unlike relative reference, absolute reference don't change when copied or filled. You can use an absolute reference to keep a row and or column constant. To create and copy a formula using absolute reference, in the example we will use cell E2, which contains the tax rate of 7.5%. To calculate the sales tax for each item in column D. To make sure the reference to the tax rate stays constant even when the formula is copied, and file to other cell, we will need to make cell E2 complete absolute. And for this, we go to use the sign dollar. The first for to do is select the cell that will contain the formula. In our sample, we will select cell D4 and we enter the formula to calculate the desired value. In our sample, we will type starting with sign equal and after the formula before multiplying C4 being multiplied by the tax and making E2 in absolute is sign dollar E sign dollar 2 and tax array is selected. We press enter and show us the cell tax. Desired cell in our sample, we will locate 500 for cell D4. 2. Click and drag the 500 over the cell you want to fill. In our sample is D5 and D13. If we click in the file cell to share their formulas for accuracy, the absolute reference should be the same for each cell, while the other references are relative to the cell row. We can see change the row, but the absolute isn't changed. It's the same in all of the case. Don't forget to subscribe and press the like button to continue making more videos.